First, you will deploy a VM. To do so, log into your chosen cloud provider. For this example, I will be using AWS. So open and log into your AWS console and then search and open the EC2 service. Once the page opens, click the orange button on the top right that says Launch Instances. Once you do that, you'll go ahead and give your EC2 instance a name. So I will name it STRATO Validator Demo, and then choose the Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, which will be already chosen. And then the instance type here on this section should be m6a.xlarge. And then go ahead and create a new key pair. For this instance, I will name it BlockApps demo key. And then I will keep it as an RSA and keep it in the PEM file format. So it will save on your computer, so save that for later use. And then here in the network settings, you will click Edit, and you can stick with the default VPC, but if a custom VPC is preferred, then you can go ahead and use that as well. No preference for the subnet, and we will disable auto-assign public IP. We will allocate an IP address a bit later, and we will create a new security group. We will name it BlockApps Demo Validator SG. And then for the security group rules, we will keep SSH access as it is, and then add a new rule for HTTPS. And for the source, we're going to add 2 blocks, the 0.0.0.0/0 and the ::/0. And then we're going to add another rule, a custom TCP rule for port 30303. Add this as a source, and then we're gonna create a custom UDP rule, which will be the same port as above. All right, and then for the storage, we will keep the default 8 GB and add a new volume. This volume will have 80 GB, and we're gonna go ahead and launch this instance. So we're gonna go ahead and click this instance to get to the page. And then we're going to go to Actions, Networking, Manage IP Addresses. We're going to add or allocate an IP address for this VM. So we're going to hit Allocate. And then we're going to click this orange button on the top right. And then make sure that the IP address is in the same network group as your instance, which in this case it is. And then click Allocate on the bottom. And here you're just going to click the IP address, go to Actions, and associate that IP address. And then we're going to type in the the name, and then hit associate. All right, so if you go back to the page, you should now see an IP address for the VM that we just deployed. And then what you're going to do is add your VM's IP address to a DNS record. I will be adding it to Cloudflare. So here I will be taking the IP address that we just allocated and adding it to Cloudflare. Then we will name the domain as Mercado Demo Validator. And then hit save. And then you will navigate to support.blockapps.net so that you can request and receive your BlockApps client credentials. So sign in or create an account if you do not already have one. When you navigate to this page, click Request Client Credentials. And for under domain name, you will put the domain name of the where your validator will be hosted. So in this case, it will be Mercado Demo Validator.blockapps.net. And then the network we will be joining is the Mercado network. And within 8 business hours, please expect the email with your client credentials so that you may use them in the node deployment steps. What you're going to do next is open up a terminal and SSH into your newly deployed VM. So here I have saved the PEM file that was generated during the VM deployments into this directory. Set the correct permissions for the PEM file that we created during the node deployments. And then we're going to SSH into the VM itself using this command. All right, now that we're in the VM, we're going to first create an install script and copy the code block that you can find in the docs page and paste that into this install script. Then we're going to save this, Control X, Y, enter. And we're going to execute this script with sudo bash install.sh. Now we're going to create another script called mount.sh and paste the code block that can be found in the documentation for this script. Go ahead and save that with Control X, Y, enter. So what this will do is mount that second volume that we added during the EC2 instance setup, move Docker to that volume, and start the Docker service. So we're going to run this with sudo bash mount.sh. All right, now we will set up Strato. So first, you will create one file. This will be note all data is in root data drive folder. This will be a reference to remind you that all the data will be in the data drive directory, which was created during the mount script. So go ahead and cd into that data drive directory, and then go ahead and clone Strato Getting Started from GitHub. Then cd into Strato Getting Started. Then you're gonna execute sudo strato -- compose in order to get the latest Strato version of the Docker Compose file. And then you're gonna do sudo /strato -- pull to pull the Docker images that are included in the Docker Compose file. So now that all that is pulled, we can move on to the next step. So within the Strato Getting Started folder, you will see a file called stratorun.sh. You will replace the contents of this file with the code block that is found in the documentation. So we'll do nano stratorun, then replace this with the code blocks. So this code block has some placeholders you will need to fill in. So the node host in the first line will be the domain name or the URL of where your node will be hosted, which in this instance we have set as kata demo validator.blockapps.net. Client ID will be the client ID that was sent to you as a response to the request that you had submitted through the support.blockapps.net page. And the client ID appears 3 times within this script, so you will need to replace it with the same value each time. And then for this next one, we will replace the client secret placeholder with the actual value that you received through the support.blockapps.net request that you had made earlier as well. And then your SendGrid API key. You can go ahead and paste that here. It is optional, but if you would like to receive email notifications from the marketplace, then you will need to add the key here. If you do not have the key or did not create one and do not wish to create one, then you can go ahead and delete this line from the script. And then afterwards, you can save with Control X, hit Y, and then hit Enter. Next step will be to copy your SSL certs into the proper folders. So within the Strato Getting Started repo, there is an SSL folder. You will cd into it. And then inside this, you will see that there is a certs and a private folder. Inside private, you will see that there is a server.key. You will replace this with your own key, and it will look similar to this. And inside the cert folder, you will see that there is a server.pem file, and you will replace this with your own version, which will look similar to this. It may have 2 begin certificates and 2 end certificates, as an intermediate certificate may be needed for your server.pem. And then once you replace those, you can go back to Strato Getting Started and execute the Strato run script with sudo strato run.sh. And then your node should successfully start, and now you can be voted in as a validator to the Mercado network.